Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajagopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg, explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys. Hello and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast. I'm PVSB, and when I'm not co-hosting this podcast, I serve as Partnership Acceleration Lead at Flywheel, a division of Omnicom that helps enterprise brands improve their SEO and SEM, growing their e-commerce business. My co-founder is Sri. He's also co-founder and partner of Think Blue, your key to unlocking your profitability potential as builders, connectors, and amplifiers. They shape the future of commerce to drive your growth. Before we get to our episode, we want to help you to spread the word about this community we've created in the CPG Guys. Beyond sharing our podcast with your friends and colleagues, if you're using Apple Podcasts or Spotify as your preferred listening platform, please leave us a rating, as it helps feed the algorithm that makes us more findable by CPG retail people like you looking for education and entertainment. We're also very happy that CPG Guys is part of an impressive collective of highly rated podcasts, including CPG Scoop with Reese and Jennifer, and the FMCG Guys with Daniel Efrain and Christine. Links to our podcast, our sister casts, and the social media profiles of Shree's two performing artist daughters, Rhea and Lara, his wife's podcast as well, may be found in the digital liner notes of this episode. Speaking of which, this episode was recorded at the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity in Cannes, France in June of 2024. And it features our dear friend Imteaz Ahamed, host of his own podcast, Applied Intelligence. Please join us for this conversation now. Hey everyone, we're recording this episode live at the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity in Cannes on the Riviera of France. It's June, it's hot, and we're ready to learn. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Sri, and we have a special guest, a returning guest to this podcast. He is host of his own podcast called Applied Intelligence. We're going to ask him all about what he does there. He's also the director of performance marketing for the nutrition business at Reckitt. Of course, I'm talking about our dear friend, Imteaz Ahamed. Imteaz, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Peter.
Good to have you here today.
Lovely to be in sunny Cannes.
Now, is this your first con?
It is my first con. I haven't been before.
It's Sri and me too. This is our first time. We've been in this industry for 30 years. We've never had the chance to come here, and three of us are all here.
And what a big retail media presence this year, specifically from the US.
You know what's interesting? It is big, but if you look at the agenda, it's not.
Yeah.
It's kind of like they're all here and they're all talking about it. I'll tell you, I've been to a bunch of stage performances so far, and it's just day one as we're recording this. And I got to tell you, the topic at hand, no big surprise. It's what you talk about in your podcast. It's AI. So we're really looking forward to this conversation tonight.
May I ask, what is AI again?
AI? Ant Irma?
Something like that.
Something like that. Anyhow, so we're glad to have you here. So let's just kick this off. And I think it's probably good for you to frame this for our audience. As far as the consumer goods world goes, define for us what AI means. What does AI mean, and what does it mean in terms of kind of the legacy of doing repetitive tasks and freeing humans? And then second, what is this new form of AI that's known as generative AI, and what the implications are? Sound
Sure.
good?
So in terms of thinking about AI, and specifically from a productivity point of view,
Yeah.
the great way to think about it is effectiveness versus efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
So humans have become more efficient as each technological revolution has come. Industrial revolution, internet revolution, and now the AI revolution, right? But on each front, it has more so been about us doing things more efficiently, things that machines can do faster than us, rather than us coming up or leveraging machines to come up with new ideas.
It's not helping us be more innovative.
It can spur new innovation, but ultimately...
But what it produces isn't in and of itself innovative.
Well, you got to think about how AI is actually trained.
Yep.
It's trained on historical data. It's trained on what it has seen in the past, rather than what it is seeing in the future. Now, it's making predictions on what it could see in the future, but that prediction is based off the history of what's happened, right? So I think the framework to think about it is, if you really want to achieve value out of AI in the immediate term, it needs to be around efficiency gains rather than effectiveness gains. So when I come to Khan and think about and see all this amazing creative work, I don't think any of this has been generated by AI yet. And I think the majority of what is being applied right now is more about how do I do things that humans do at a much faster scale, rather than expecting AI to just run everything for me.
So do you see this as the conversations going on here are more about here's what I'm looking to get out of content. How can you help me get there faster? That's the efficiency play.
If I have a creative idea built off a creative insight that I have, how do I get 20 different ideas from that rather than expecting the machine to come up with the insight itself?
Okay. So it can iterate for you. It just can't necessarily
the root
come
still
up with
needs
the
to
idea.
come from a human.
Yep.
I think the kind of little bit of a profound thing that you said there is AI is all about harnessing the past for the future. But before we go there, Imteaz, welcome back to the CPG Guys. It's a pleasure to have you on again. I'd love to learn your career, Dev. Like, how did you get in this position where the industry now looks at you, and you're running a podcast on AI, and the industry looks at you as like the whiz kid of AI? And take us through your career. Like, where did you graduate? What roles have you done? And then why AI? Like, how did you pick it?
And what was your first piece of technology that got you excited?
So when I was 6 years old, my dad bought me a 386.
Yeah.
And that, it was this first piece of technology that I ever got to play with.
Did you say a 386?
386.
I learned on a Wang word processor, a 286.
Yeah.
And I was trying to put Windows 3.0 to work on it. And I had to teach myself DOS so I could adjust the files and buffers to get the thing to boot up. So I hear you with that when you say you had a 386.
Yeah, just so I think we're all going to date ourselves a little bit over here. There was no 286s and 386 when I first touched a computer. It was those two drives, floppy drives. One of them was permanently DOS.
Wow.
And the other floppy drive you could do things with.
So you had like the old IBM 8086 with the dual boot floppies.
Bingo, 8086.
Yes.
I didn't think you'd know, but hey.
I don't know. I'm dating myself. I don't know what that's stuff is.
The day that IBM released their 8086 dual boot floppy, my mother went out and bought the first one in Toronto. And she said, I've got this game for you. It's called Zork. I don't know how it works, but they built a game for it, and this is your game. So go learn how to use it.
We can play this game all day. Do you know what a punch card is?
Yes, I know what a punch card
is.
So
I grew up with leftover punch cards from the IBM compatible.
Did you collect them like toys?
Correct. What it is Dad would bring them home.
Yep.
He was responsible for data processing for a British company in Calcutta, and all the leftover ones that were garbage, he'd bring them home, and that's what we draw on and like make stick figures from. But Imteaz, we're not going to do it. We're going to focus back on Imteaz, your career, why AI.
Started my career in Reckitt, Australia, on the graduate program. My first job was selling into pharmacy. So as a pharmacy territory sales manager, did sales operations, moved into account management, did some trade marketing as well as some shopper marketing. Very fortunate to be part of at the time, Woolworths in Australia was launching Quantium. Woolworths was launching Quantium, so all the shopper metric data comes into Australia as well. So I got to run a range review for the first time with substitutability and loyalty metrics, which is very interesting to see, like inter-purchase interval and all these other new things that you could run.
Substitutability, what a great measure. It really separates the players from the posers when it comes to brand equity.
Yeah.
You got to love that stuff.
So, this is 12 odd years ago when this launches in Australia. So I got to learn that. And then fast forward 2 years after that, this thing called e-commerce pops up. And at the time, the Reckitt Australia sales director just got told off by an EVP because we didn't have anyone allocated to e-commerce at that time. And he comes up to me and he says, Imteaz, you do your move. Do you want to do this e-commerce thing? I'm like, okay, I got, I could take the traditional sales path and do that, or transition into this thing called e-commerce, which had nobody there. And most people at the time questioned my intelligence. And they said, why did you do that?
I know another person sitting in this triumvirate of ours, not being me and not being you, who has a very similar story from his time at PepsiCo. I don't know who it could be. And he questioned the sanity of that decision as well. He went around soliciting feedback.
I totally hear you, man, because when I was asked to kind of leave the dollar drug and convenience channel, so I was selling into C-stores and 7-Eleven and things of that nature in a classic sales role. I wanted the region VP job at Frito. And they told me to start e-com instead. I thought people were crazy and I did something wrong and I need to leave the CPG industry.
It's not even bad.
But Imteaz, how do you feel? I feel, 10, 12 years later that obviously the person who made the decision for me, Vivek, who now runs Albertsons, and told me to take the role, brilliant move, because my career has largely been shaped of doing this today because I got a chance to lead e-com. Do you feel the same way?
100%. If I had stayed the traditional sales route, I would have been very bored very quickly.
Be selling stuff out of the trunk of your car, driving through the bush.
Yes, in Australia.
Exactly.
In terms of learning new things every day, getting to work with technology partners, etc. That has only happened because I was in e-com. So yeah. I'm very fortunate that the right mentors at the right time gave me the advice to move into e-com at that time.
So you get to e-com, solve the mystery. Like, how did that develop into AI focus?
So as part of that journey, I launched direct-to-consumer when direct-to-consumer was a very hot topic at that time. So I had to learn first-party data marketing. So Salesforce Marketing Cloud, how to run Google Ads, how to build Google Ads, how to run Meta, how to connect the dots between all of your data coming out of Shopify directly into Meta, etc. So for me, it was, I had this sales experience, I had this trade marketing experience, obviously not pure brand marketing experience, but enough to come up with creative, and then had to learn all this technology stuff that happened. Fast forward into COVID. I wasn't traveling as much. So I was like, I should do something interesting. So I did a data science course through Harvard Business School online. And that really exposed me to, what you could potentially do if you have vast amounts of data. Now, most CPGs, I would say, don't have a lot of first-party data. We kind of leverage our retail partners or our ad partners or publisher partners for their first-party data to do things. But I was in quite a unique position at Reckitt where we have a brand called Enfamil, which has been built off CRM for over 15 to 20 years now. And then the lights just turned on.
But solve a mystery in my head, right? First-party data is how you stay in touch with the consumer and how you really build LTV. Why do brands not really focus on LTV? They just leave it to the retailer who really builds their loyalty platform.
And let me add to that. The concept of LTV, is it really lifetime value or is it more long-term value? So as you answer that, I'd love your opinion on it.
I think the reason why brands don't necessarily focus on, or CPG brands don't necessarily focus on first-party data is because they have come from a school of thought, which is everything is about mass reach, everything is about mass distribution, everything is about get to as many eyeballs as you can and make sure that we have as much distribution as we can, and then pump ads, and then it will sell.
But even those
sounds like they're waiting for linear television to make a comeback. I think they'll be waiting a while.
Even those ads, we're literally sitting here at the festival of creativity. When you're pumping mass ads, you can only be so creative. True?
Right, true. But, for a very long period of time, that worked. When you could leverage your supply chain and the efficiencies coming out of your supply chain and the efficiencies coming out of your media buying to actually get to these effective audiences. Now, there's been a paradigm shift in terms of, reach at a delicate level, at a detailed level, using all the new technology partners that you have, is fundamentally changed. And now there isn't this massive barrier to entry in terms of buying media anymore. Anyone can buy media on Google or Facebook or Google and Meta. So the business model has changed, but I don't think most CPGs have caught up to that change as yet and made the appropriate investments in technology platforms, people and talent platforms, as well as their internal processes to make the change into a first-party data strategy for a business.
So how are they measuring customer long-term value, or is it still just largely aspirational to most marketers?
So right now, if you have a data service like the Walmart Luminate or a Quantium or a dunnhumby, you're kind of looking at what is my shopper doing long term through a defined period of time, or annualized or whatever that is. But if you have,
that should be relevant brand by brand, right?
Yeah, and you can do that across multiple brands, right? Within infant nutrition as a business, you only have this shopper for a very finite period of time. So measuring that lifetime value is a lot easier to do, I would say, rather than thinking about it, over multiple years.
That finite ecosystem you talk about in infant nutrition, is that 2 years, 3 years? Like, how long is that period?
So for infant nutrition, for infant formula, it's less than a year.
Less than a year. So that kind of makes sense, right? I want to go back to creative, right? Like, as I mentioned, we're literally sitting here in the festival of creativity. If your real desire is mass reach, you can only be so creative. Yet the word personalization in the ad industry is thrown out literally dime to a dozen. We hear the word personalization. Is personalization real, or is it just some kind of English language word from Webster's dictionary that marketers throw around?
The best creatives, or going back to the efficiency versus effectiveness equation, the most effective ads are the ones that resonate to an audience that actually makes economic sense for a business, right? So rather than thinking that this ad needs to resonate with the entirety of the audience, how do you make ad creative that really speaks to that audience that you want to target? And how does that inspire them to do something with your brand?
Yep. Let's jump to AI, our hot topic of the day. And let's jump to your podcast. You've literally started a podcast. How many episodes deep are you now?
I've done 11 episodes deep. We just published the one with Steve Dennis over the weekend as well.
By the way, I love your opening. That voice announcer that does the voiceover.
Yeah, this guy called Peter Bond.
Never heard of him, but boy, what a great... I listened to his podcast and you need an opening, I'm going to give it to you. I cut a recording and I sent it to him and he just put it on.
Can you introduce me to this voice impersonator so I can get him on the CPG Guys?
Welcome to Applied Intelligence.
Tell us all about the podcast. What is it about? What was the inspiration? And then what kind of guests are you bringing on?
Sure thing. So Applied Intelligence is about looking at the applications of AI, specifically within the corporate sphere. So it's not just about looking at within CPG, but it's more broader. It's much broader than that. In terms of the guests that I have on the podcast, it's really about people that are at the forefront of this industry right now and thinking about how these things can be applied to the business and corporate sphere in the immediate term. For me, the why behind this is because I see the potential of this technology, and I've been through waves, right? We went through the e-commerce wave, we went through a D2C wave, we are now going through the AI wave. There's a lot of, we went through the metaverse wave, and that was very short. But for me, it's like, how do you find the applications of this stuff and make it valuable, meaningful, and then take the productivity gains that you can, if it's valuable, and then focus on what humans are actually good at doing, which is coming up with new ideas and building businesses.
So tell us a little bit about the guests you've had so far. What kind of topics have you hit up in this AI world?
Sure thing. So the first, one of the first guests that I had on the podcast was Kostav Bhattacharya. Kostav's the CTO of Invika in the UK. So I had worked with Kostav previously at Reckitt, and some of the work that he's putting out, it's just mind-blowing. For him, working at more of a creative agency or whatnot, for him, it's really looking at how do I enable AI to create creative and content that will actually make customers say wow, but also the people that are going to experience those brands say wow. From that, I've gone on to interview other people within the tech industry So Brian was one of my guests as well. And in that episode, we talk about how, his coding team is basically using Copilot, Microsoft Copilot from a developer point of view to significantly improve their productivity, right? So everyone is really focusing on the efficiency side of the equation rather than the effectiveness side of the equation. And I think that's my key message to, everyone who's freaking out about AI is, the machines are a lot better than humans when it comes to doing repetitive tasks.
Yep.
Let the machines do that.
Just let the machine be the machine. So my question is around their ability to get to there. Do you get a sense for how that happened? Is it self-taught? Do they rely on a community? Like, what gets them to understand how to leverage AI to do exactly this?
This is a very important point, which is a lot of CPGs in particular have not set up the data foundations within their organizations.
So having the data to train against is what's critical for making AI actually deliver the
stuff
outcomes.
Of value.
Valuable outcomes.
Yeah. So if, for example, your ad creatives are sitting with your ad agency and not sitting on your side, and you don't have access to them, and you have to speak to 50 different stakeholders to get all of those ad creatives onto your side to build an AI model to understand what you've done historically, and maybe you don't even own the asset rights to all of your historical...
Can that be an issue for like brands that have instances on Amazon Marketing Cloud and through an agency, and they can't access that? It's the agencies.
It's the agency. Yeah. So you need to be very clear on who owns your ad creative.
Okay.
How is that being housed? Where it's being housed?
Okay.
Do you have ownership of that? Can you process that? Do you have the rights to process that? All of that information needs to be on your side for you actually to create a data model to do anything with that.
And so, assuming they have the data asset, how do they get started? Like, who teaches them what a prompt is? How do they know what's an efficient prompt? And any of these things, like, when you talk to these people, what inspires them and what gets them moving on the journey is, I guess, the question I'm trying to ask.
So,
there are a lot of people out there who are very intimidated by this, and they don't really know where to start.
So one concept to think about, and then we'll come to a case study. The concept is inputs and outputs and processing in between, right? So your inputs could be, a creative brief. You process that through a designer, and you get outputs, creatives, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So as long as you understand what your inputs are and what your outputs are, the machine can do something in between, or the human is doing something in between right now, okay? So I run a team of creative designers who create product page content, and they also create DSP content, okay? Now, what we've been able to do is absorb all of the creative assets that we have published on the Amazon DSP, so on the DSP, and run a generative AI model through thousands of assets, convert those creative IDs into effectively Excel spreadsheet, which means by creative, it has tagged the brand, the marketing claim, the call to action, the product inside of the image, the size and spec of the image, even the color palette used on that particular image. And then, because it's running through the DSP, we have all of the ad click sales, we have clicks,
all the metrics,
all the key metrics. Because it's all tied to a creative ID sitting inside of a campaign, we have this giant Excel spreadsheet of all the metrics against all the parameters that I've talked to you about.
Okay.
That gets ingested into a generative AI model.
Yep.
That then learns, okay, these are the marketing these are the marketing claims that have warranted the highest amount of sales.
Okay.
These are the marketing creatives that have, or these are the color palettes that warrant the most amount of clicks. So we've trained this model to now understand what creative achieves the objective that we're trying to achieve. From that, rather than thinking about, a fresh out of university person coming and starting to brief creative assets. We've armed our creative designers to prompt this specific generative AI tool to come up with DSP creative. And one of the things to note here is, especially if you're within a highly regulated category like healthcare, you can't mess around with claims, right? So that's one thing we don't want the generative AI to mess around with or to come up with new ideas for. But background images on a DSP, the placement of the call to action, the resizing of all of this stuff into 20 different sizes for us, we're completely happy for generative AI to do that. So we're arming our very, very good creative designers with this new tool to help them do their jobs at significantly faster pace. Similar to how Microsoft has enabled developers with Copilot to become more efficient.
Sri, do you think that we can use Copilot to design the ultimate CPG Guys swag collection? Because I think that could be an absolutely appropriate use of generative AI for our needs.
I was about to go there for a second, right? I look at my own Instagram feed, and I'm not picking on Instagram. This would be true of any feed. There's a ton of AI-based content that's being pushed out, and I can tell the difference when I see the AI-based content. But the sheer scale is pretty impressive and daunting at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Especially on the creative side. There's like a 95% decency or accuracy and 5% not so much that I can tell the difference. There's a lot of worry in the industry. AI is going to take our jobs as a result. I think, like any technology, you should be worried, but you should also adapt and you should learn. And
it's going to create new jobs.
But all that said, is AI really capable in the creative world of replicating what a human can do?
Okay, so if you are a very small brand, I'm talking like less than $10 million worth of revenue, this AI stuff is really useful because it's effectively getting you something.
You're not going to have the resources, so.
Yeah, you don't have the resources, so this is amazing. But if you're a multi-billion-dollar brand and you have all this brand heritage, you have all of these brand books, you have all these creative partners, you have legal, on all this stuff to deal with, AI is helpful, but not necessarily the solution because it doesn't stakeholder manage all of the people that you have to kind of deal with.
The risk avoidance piece.
Yeah. So is it going to make us more efficient at the corporate sphere? Yes, it will. Is it going to fundamentally wipe out 90% of creative jobs in the next 2 years? I doubt it.
Can we go to the other side of your job, which is the performance marketing side?
Yep.
You talked about effectiveness versus efficiency. The focus has been, with AI, has been a lot of efficiency versus effectiveness. But when I think of the performing marketing side, one of the things that rises top of mind for me is the efficiency, which is the ability to optimize your spend, especially retail media. Here we are in a conference where it's a big terminology, right? And with AI and with maybe the last 3 years of data, one should be able to run models pretty effectively, have an ML backing to compute large volumes of data, and you should be able to pull efficiency, actually pull a few $1 million out. Compare that to your role now and talk about the difference between what you would call effectiveness versus the efficiency.
Okay. So the use case that I have for machine learning is based out of Amazon Marketing Cloud.
Yep.
And leveraging Amazon Marketing Cloud. So we've built our own media buying engine that from an efficiency point of view, what it effectively does is creates hundreds of thousands of micro audiences. So 2,000 identities at a time. And that the audience definition of that, or the way we found that audience or created that audience could be something like has searched competitor keyword in the last 30 days, but did not buy this category.
And prior to this technology, you could build the audiences. The challenge was always the creative iterations that were relevant for those audiences. That was always a big stumbling block, yes?
It's a stumbling block if you don't have a mechanism to create lots of assets on your site. Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
It was a human capital kind of limitation that I could build audiences through, 8451 through Luminate until the cows came home. But I couldn't activate against it because I just didn't have enough ability in a very discrete amount of time, because we know those audiences age very quickly,
Yes.
right? So your ability to catch the audience at the right time and deliver a relevant creative was always challenging because you just couldn't create that many iterations. And that's kind of the promise of what we're seeing.
But the benefit of having granular audiences is that if you come up with 100 different creatives, you can actually test against
exactly
100 different audiences. Whereas previously, if you're buying an audience size in the hundreds of thousands or the millions, and you don't have an audience or a target market that big, you can't really test anything fast enough, right? So in terms of efficiency, after you've defined these audiences based on an insight, what the model is effectively doing is cutting these up into smaller chunks, testing the creative at the right bid value, as well as the right frequency, and as well as selecting the right creative, and then serving it to them. Once it's worked out the permutation and combination that works, it scales the spend. So it's driving drastic amount of efficiency for us, specifically within a category where you have a very finite amount of shoppers.
So how do I interpret that? You're using effectiveness to drive efficiency.
You're letting the machine choose the right creative for the right audience, and then manage your budgeting and your other financial KPIs all at the same time.
I mean, you just gave a fantastic example of applied AI. One of the things that the CPG guys have found, Peter and I, in talking to many in the industry is, I'm not so sure most people can really give examples of applied AI. They focus more on they're really focusing on ML, which is the thinking of AI as large computational power, which has got nothing to do with AI in reality. In the industry, though, you might be a beacon. Have you heard of others? Like, is the industry really getting into applied AI? And like, here are 5 use cases. Are you guys like a standalone?
Do you and your contemporaries like meet in a secret place where it only fits like
WhatsApp
5
group,
people?
perhaps,
Where is that?
Come on, man. We should be talking
Open
about
up
WhatsApp groups.
tell us what's going on here.
There aren't a lot of use cases that I've seen, or a lot of applications that I've seen, of leveraging AI with audiences or AI with retail media. So I'm hungry to learn what other people are doing. But this is, from what I've been hearing, quite a unique use case of, putting two things together.
So if I want to start thinking about doing this at a very simplistic level, I want to learn how to write better prompts and then to build prompts upon prompts and build out a suite. Like, where do I go as a brand marketer to really start that journey and understand how this can be applied? Like, there's no, maybe there is a CPG brand prompting for dummies book. I don't know. But how does someone, besides obviously listening to your podcast and hearing some of these people, how do we encourage these people to not feel like it's not so daunting? You can get in. It's not too late. Get started, but do it now.
So 2 things. One of the most valuable lessons I was taught in a sort of startup journey that I started 10 years ago was the value of unlearning to relearn, right?
Unlearning to relearn. I like that.
So we constantly have new things popping up, new startups popping up. There's new data service, or there's this new retail media network coming. Ultimately, you have to be able to throw out everything you've learned and just learn this new thing and see if you can apply it to what you're doing. If there is value there, fine. If there isn't, dump it and move on. In terms of brand marketers leveraging AI, I think you just got to put it into your workflow and see what it does. So, if I'm coming up with, for my LinkedIn posts, I need, 10 different ideas. I'm just popping in some keywords into ChatGPT and putting in some background context in terms of what I'm looking for. And then is just giving me a whole heap of ideas to start with. And then I go out and make my own content and test it from there. So, putting it into your day-to-day life right now in terms of your standard workflow is quite important.
Do you think every brand manager or brand marketer worth their salt has or should have ChatGPT and Microsoft's version, all of them on their devices right in front of them?
So Microsoft is running multiple pilots with lots of CPGs right now. in terms of embedding Copilot into the entire Office suite, right? So it's ingesting all of the emails that you have from the past. Well, I've been at Reckitt almost 16 years now. So it's ingesting all of that information and building context on you as a specific Outlook user, and then reading all of your PowerPoint presentations, your Word documents, etc. And it's already built a profile of you. Now, if I want to forward an email to my manager to summarize what's going on, I can write a prompt on Microsoft Copilot saying, summarize this email for my boss. And it's effectively putting, dear boss's name, here is 3 bullets on what this email actually means. Send.
So that is terrific. I guess the challenge is there are some watch outs though, right? And I've got to assume that that the pilots that Microsoft has built into this is a standalone closed iteration. It is not it's not a truly open one that other marketers at other companies will necessarily benefit from what you are doing. Because in doing so, you could, if it were truly open, if I were to just download the generic version of ChatGPT and I started entering in prompts, whatever I do, it will benefit the next people who come to that same tool.
Yes.
And so there are concerns you have to put in place,
of course,
before you start going hog wild crazy,
of course,
on using generative AI.
Just to be clear, like in terms of how I use ChatGPT, it's entirely for personal usage.
Yeah.
So nothing related to work is ever put on an open platform, which is ChatGPT, because as you're using ChatGPT, it's learning off your prompts and it's ingesting your data and it's understanding you better.
Yeah.
Whereas the Microsoft Pilot or Microsoft Copilot is a closed system within that company's own data.
So it can benefit from open source information, but what differentiates it is it also can benefit from all the closed source information that is controlled within that company's environment.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense.
So are you saying, I met this guy, Ajay Sharma, today, good friend of the show. He's been on a few times.
Who?
Ajay Sharma.
Never heard of him.
And you're saying I shouldn't tell him to use ChatGPT and ask a question, how do I optimize my retail media spend? Bad idea. Jokes apart though.
Yeah.
Jokes apart though, we'll fast forward to the last question over here on today's episode. And that is a fast forward question. Let's talk about trends, right? AI is definitely one of the hottest trends. Retail media would be the other one in our CPG industry. Where does this go? So you're one of the first that has come on the show, talked about applied AI versus generative AI, or just the word AI in general, which really people are talking about ML. Where do you see this trend going? Do you see more efficiency and effectiveness outcomes as applied AI? Are there other use cases for applied AI outside creative?
There are tons of applications for AI within CPG, because if you think about the processes that CPG goes through, they're very replicable. They keep happening, right? You go through an S&OP process every single month. You create marketing budgets every single month, right? So there's a ton of process that exists at mega scale. We're talking millions of hours per month within organizations, right?
Wow.
So there is a huge economic shift that could happen in the very near future if the right stakeholders within the organization enable people to come in, work out what a machine can do better, and then let them just go run a pilot at a very low risk, and then see if that works and scale. And
So you strongly believe AI is still very much in the test and learn mode?
I think it's in the test and learn mode within CPG.
I meant CPG.
Yeah, within CPG, probably yes, in a test and learn mode. But when you're looking at technology companies, they've already deployed this stuff. They're using it for a long time. Now, how do we take those learnings from tech companies and then apply it here? That's the challenge.
I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how that actually works out. Let me remind our audience that you can find all of our content by simply going to a web browser and typing www.cpgguys.com. That easy. And if you believe you or someone you know has something to contribute to our discussion here on the CPG Guys, drop us an email at contact@cpgguys.com. Again, that's contact@cpgguys.com. Don't forget to leave us a rating on the top navigation bar on the right-hand side of our website. That rating means a lot because that rating tells us whether we are doing this right. And the review tells us if we're bringing the right guests and having the right conversations like we did with Imteaz today. I want to thank our 33,000 plus followers on LinkedIn, your dedication, the clicks, likes, comments, answering our polls that we have on the show, as well as all the DMs you send Peter and me on the conversations we want to have. Imteaz, I know this is a busy week for you right here in Cannes Lions. Thank you for making time to chat with the CPG guys.
Thank you, Sri. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely.
Pleasure doing this week overview, episode over episode with you. We're lucky that we're here in Cannes Lions.
Sri, I'm seriously thinking we need to investigate a permanent CPG Guys suite in Cannes. Like not just a week a year. I'm thinking we'll talk out during our monthly swag conversation.
Let's do that, man.
Let's discuss this.
Let's do that, man. That's a wrap of this episode. See you soon on another episode of the CPG Guys.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.